Seems incredible, does it not? So with every week that passes, Labour fall further down into the mire. Just when you thought they hadn't, you know, it's like that movie, you know, where they sort of have to fall from one level to the next down, depending on how well they do in some sort of weird game, and they end up sort of eating each other. They keep, every now and again, when you think there isn't another level below the one they're at, they find it.
I think we've got nearly 5 years of this, and every news bulletin, you know, it's grown yet further bad news. We've had CV inflation from Rachel Reeves, and now we're getting. You just said that real inflation is getting worse. So I mean, I just wonder how we can keep going. I disagree, by the way, obviously, as a Conservative, with the person who was attacking Kemi Badenoch. I mean, I think it was good. That she made it really clear to the farmers that if the Conservatives get in, that they will scrap the inheritance tax. What I hope is that maybe it could be made retrospective, so you know that some of these farms that are already under this huge burden of inheritance tax, so that could be cancelled when we get a change of government. But I can understand how people at the moment, a lot of people feel like giving up, emigrating. Whatever, and there's no point pretending. I mean, this is a depressing time for the country.
I think so, and I think the reason why a lot of people like Trevor say the things that they say is because they've had years and years of promises that have been broken. They've had years and years of people saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're definitely not going to do this, we're definitely not going to do that, and then it sort of happens anyway. And I think politics in general is in the doldrums as a result of that. And so Nigel Farage and Reform look like a much better bet for an awful lot of people simply because they do what they say. Now, you might argue that, well, it's easy for them, they haven't been in government yet. But, you know, the idea that Keir Starmer has basically lied his way into government, that Rachel Reeves has consistently told untruths in order to get the job that she's got, I mean, I think that has done untold damage to our political system. People have no faith in it anymore.
Yes, I think Kemi Badenoch is a true Conservative, and she's got strong principles, and she was an engineer by background. She thinks things through in terms of what is credible to promise. So I hope that.
Well, she may though, but the fact is, Harry, she was in the last government, and you know the last government was woeful. I'm afraid. I mean,
it was, but then Margaret Thatcher was in Ted Heath's government. Keir Starmer was in Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet. I think that's the nature of politics, really. But I think that there will be a very clear change of direction from the Conservatives. But also, I think there might be different people, might be more traditional Labour supporters who switch to Reform UK. So I don't necessarily think this narrative that the Conservatives and Reform UK are competing for the same votes is necessarily right. I think it could be that some people are won over from Labour in different parts of the country, and some switch to the Conservatives, some switch to Reform UK. I don't
think there's any doubt, though, that Reform is the thorn in the side of both of those parties, because they've won votes from Labour. They've also won them from the Tories, and there's no reason at the moment they're the fastest growing political party on the planet. And so, you know, I think the Conservatives need to be a little bit less kind of sure that they're going to be the party of opposition forever.
Yes, yes. I mean, the Conservatives, and one of the things that the Conservatives need to start communicating their beliefs, and they need to have a bit of a recruitment drive. I mean, Reform UK have got nearly 100,000 members. They're making a big effort to get people to sign up, right. And the Conservatives need to start doing that, rebuilding the party organisation, which doesn't, you know, isn't an exciting thing that makes the headlines, but no, there's a lot of...
No, but there's an awful lot of people that speak to us on a daily basis who have given up on the Conservatives, who are no longer members and who no longer contribute money, and the Conservative Party, as a general principle at the moment, hasn't got a lot of money running around inside of its coffers, is it?
No. To make a positive point, I do think that we are going to see internationally Conservatives making a comeback. Obviously, we've had Donald Trump. He's now got dramatic plans with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to really cut back on bureaucracy and wasteful state spending. It was a year ago we had Javier Milei in Argentina. He's had a tremendous success, remarkable turnaround in terms of cutting.
Yes, but neither of those. But interestingly, neither of those individuals, Harry, would support much of the Conservative Party's last government's policies, particularly when it comes to net zero and particularly when it comes to immigration. So, no, you know, they're actually. You wouldn't describe them necessarily as conservative. You might describe them as closer to reform, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, you could say libertarian, but Kemi Badenoch doesn't support net zero, and so a lot of the policies that she, because of collective responsibility, she was there as a minister, but it's obviously clear that she didn't support a lot of the socialist policies that we had under the so-called Conservative government, and she's shifting the position of the Conservatives, and I think that will gradually become more apparent to Trevor and your other listeners as she gets. As she begins.
But we haven't got time for gradually, though, Harry, because unfortunately Keir Starmer's destroying the country before our very eyes. You know, we've got a guy who's got a Chancellor of the Exchequer who has probably breached the ministerial code, who may well have to leave her position because it may become untenable. You've got Conservative Party MP writing to her to ask her specifically to state when she worked for the Bank of England, when she worked for HBOS, what exactly jobs did she do. You know, she's in a bit of trouble here, isn't she?
Oh, I think it's absolutely indefensible what Rachel Reeves has done. I mean, that was a scoop for the Guido Fawkes website, and further, it's one of these things that further details keep emerging because if you get somebody who is dishonest about their CV, then it ends up that appears in different job applications and legal documents, and and particularly when they were so pious and prissy about Boris Johnson having a cake during lockdown, which he didn't even eat.
Exactly. And Keir Starmer seems to think that gallivanting around the world is the way forward, where he doesn't really achieve very much. You know, he went all the way to Samoa. I think it was 28 hours getting there, 28 hours getting back. On the way out, he said, we're certainly not going to be discussing reparations. That's not even on the table. And by the time he came back, he'd already signed a document which said that not only were reparations on the table, but we should start talking about how they should be paid.
Well, that is complete fantasy. And of course... we should be extremely proud in this country of the role of the Royal Navy in abolishing slavery, and so the idea that we of all people should be somehow have some kind of collective guilt is completely...
Well, it is nonsense. But what I'm saying is, as well as whatever Kemi Badenoch's doing on behalf of the farmers, she needs to be attacking, you know, Keir Starmer every chance she gets. But once again, Prime Minister's questions today, he's not going to be there because he's on his way back from Brazil. Yes,
we get... I mean, this is something that previous governments... after they've been in power for a long time, they used to talk about sort of mid-term after a few years, that they would plunge in the polls, and the Prime Minister would try and find excuses to be out of the country as much as possible because they're getting so much flack. I mean, the remarkable thing about this government is that things have fallen apart so quickly.
Yeah, it really is quite extraordinary. And I don't think they're going to last. I mean, I know people say this to me all the time. How can you possibly predict that they'll be somehow out of power? Well, because of the way things are unravelling so quickly. I think Keir Starmer has got massive problems, both personally and with his political party and with his government. You know, the poll ratings are absolutely dire. He's got a very inexperienced cabinet, most of whom have never been in government before. He's got Rachel Reeves, who may... I mean, if he loses Rachel Reeves, he's already lost Sue Gray. You know, he's going to start looking like a guy who doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, no, that's right. And picking the fight with the farmers, I mean, it was very... I mean, it's an outrageous thing to do, and it's based on...
And unnecessary.
On class... It's based on class war. All the farmers represent all the things that Labour hate about patriotism and tradition and private property and the family. All those values that are an anathema to the modern Labour Party. But those images of the tractors in Whitehall, you know, will resonate across the country, and the doubling down on the Labour Party, saying, oh, it's only a small thing, or oh, they've got lots of land. The value of land is almost irrelevant as an absolute term. It depends completely on what the land is for. Yeah. If you've got 100 acres and you're a property developer with planning permission to build thousands of houses, then that's worth a lot of money. If you're a farmer and the 100 acres is for farming, you're barely breaking even as it is. So the idea you get the wallet with a huge inheritance tax bill when you take over from your father. It means it simply won't be viable. And if you start selling off a bit of the land to try and pay, then it's even less viable if the farm becomes smaller. So I mean, either they want to destroy the farmers, out of some kind of spite, or they're just incredibly ignorant of the basic realities of how we get our food on the table.
I think, Harry, it's a bit of both.